The entire company froze. A $10 million demo just crashed. Irritated, screens went black. Engineers panicked. And in the middle of it all, a single mom clutched her son's hand. He looked up, eyes wide, and whispered, "Mom, can I fix it?" People laughed, some rolled their eyes. But 5 minutes later, he did something no one expected. And what followed changed 3 lives and 1 company forever. The conference room on the top floor of Virion Technologies was polished to a gleam. Glass walls, backlit panels, and a central touchscreen display the size of a dining table. A $10 million client deal hinged on this morning's presentation. Outside the room, assistants buzzed. Inside, tension simmered beneath every pressed suit. At precisely 9 o'clock, the presentation software was cued. Elliot Stone, Virion's famously stone-faced CEO, gave a crisp nod. A hush fell over the room. And then, the screens went dark. First one, then all of them. Elective gasp filled the space. The central touchscreen blinked twice and shut off. Error messages spilled across the backup displays in cryptic lines of code. A low alarm chimed once, twice, then silence. No one moved. No one breathed. Elliot's jaw tightened. "What is going on?" he asked, dangerously calm. His chief engineer paled. I do not know. It just dropped everything. The system's offline." The lead sales executive stared at her tablet, frozen. "They are arriving in 3 minutes." A ripple of panic moved through the room. Keyboard clacking began. Frantic whispers followed. Someone knocked over a coffee cup. Liquid pooled dangerously close to a surge protector. Outside the glass at the back of the room, a woman in a simple navy blouse stood clutching the hand of a little boy. She wore a staff badge. Her name was Naomi Carter. No one noticed her. No one had ever really noticed her. Except for the boy, 7 years old, bright brown eyes, a lanyard with paperclip inventions hanging from his neck. His name was Leo. Leo tugged at his mother's sleeve. "Mom?" he whispered. "Can I fix it?" Naomi flinched. Every head in the room turned. Executives, engineers, the client's liaison who had just entered the room early now paused mid-step. "Not now, baby," Naomi whispered through trembling lips. Leo blinked. One of the engineers let out a low chuckle. "Cute." Elliot turned. His eyes landed on the boy, then on Naomi. She felt her ears burn. No one said a word. The clock on the wall ticked. 2 minutes until the client team would arrive in full. 1 shot. No screens. No fix in sight. And a 7-year-old boy asking for permission to save the day. Naomi Carter was 32 years old and tired in a way that coffee could not fix. She walked the glass hallways of Virion Technologies each morning in simple blouses and black sneakers, pushing a supply cart that squeaked just enough to be annoying. She refilled espresso pods and stocked sugar packets like a ritual. No one saw her, but she saw everything. Her badge said facilities assistant. Her heart said something else. Naomi had once been a software engineering student, top of her class, full scholarship, fluent in 3 programming languages by age 22. Then came the pregnancy. Then came Leo. Then came the dropout forms and the job hunt and the terrifying realization that dreams did not bend easily around diapers. But she did not complain. Naomi had a sense of humor so dry it often went unnoticed. She had eyes that looked both tired and brilliant. She carried herself with a quiet strength that people mistook for shyness. And then there was Leo. Leo Carter, age 7, could not tie his shoelaces properly, but could disassemble a desktop computer in under 20 minutes. His lunchbox always had handwritten notes with math puzzles. His favorite toys were not action figures. They were wires, magnets, and LEDs. He asked strangers questions like, "Do you think computers dream?" And Why do grown-ups lie with their faces and not their words? Naomi raised him alone. His father was a whisperer in a past life, never abusive, just absent. She juggled Leo's schedule with split shifts, early mornings and night cleaning gigs. They lived in a one-bedroom apartment with a leaky faucet and a corner of the living room dedicated to Leo's lab. That lab was everything. Cardboard robots with googly eyes, old keyboards turned into spaceship control panels, circuits made from repurposed toaster wires. Naomi supported it all, even when it meant eating oatmeal 3 nights in a row. Some nights, after putting Leo to bed, she would stay up scrolling through job boards. She sent out resumes, portfolios, reworked cover letters. "Dear hiring manager," she wrote, "I left the industry to raise a human being. Now I am ready to build again." Dozens of applications, almost no replies. Still, she kept trying. Sometimes she would code at a 24-hour diner while Leo slept in a hoodie beside her. The waitresses knew her name. Her dreams were smaller now, but still alive. And every time Leo asked her, "Mom, do you think I am weird?" she answered the same way, "No, baby. I think you are the best kind of different." And she meant it. Because even if the world could not yet see the value in her or her son, Naomi knew something they did not. They were not here to blend in. They were built to rewire the world. Naomi Carter had learned the art of invisibility. People at Virion often mistook her for a temp, even after 2 years of quietly making things run smoother than anyone gave her credit for. They left dirty mugs on counters she had just wiped. They handed her tangled cords without asking. They asked, "Are you new?" with the casual disinterest of someone scanning a badge, not a face. No one ever asked her name. Except Lindsay. Lindsay Jacobs was the senior project manager on Virion's flagship product. Blonde, polished, sharp-eyed, and utterly allergic to anything that did not serve her ambition. She referred to Naomi as support staff, even when Naomi fixed her team's botched supply orders more than once. On school holidays, when Naomi had no choice but to bring Leo along for a few hours, Lindsay made it her mission to comment. "Bringing your kid again?" she would ask, loud enough for an audience. "What is this, take your child to work every day?" Naomi would smile through it. Leo would hide behind her, cheeks pink. Once, in the elevator, Lindsay turned to a coworker and said, "Do we not have HR policies for this kind of thing?" She said it like Naomi was an infestation. And yet Naomi endured it. Every sigh, every sideways glance, every time someone assumed she was lost or new or just irrelevant. Then there was Elliot Stone, the CEO. Bold, brilliant, perfectly tailored suits. He walked through the halls like a storm behind glass. He did not make eye contact. He did not do pleasantries. He was efficiency made flesh. To Naomi, he had only ever said 4 words: "Excuse me, and thank you." Leo, however, had other ideas. One afternoon, while Naomi was restocking server room supplies and Leo sat doodling circuits in a corner, Elliot passed by. Leo looked up, tilted his head, and asked with absolute sincerity, "Are you a robot or just sat a lot?" Elliot stopped mid-step. He turned, eyes narrowing. Naomi went white. Leo just blinked. "You never smile." To everyone's shock, Elliot replied, "Smiling is not efficient." Leo shrugged. "Neither is being lonely." He went back to his drawing. Elliot walked away. No one ever mentioned it again, but Naomi thought about it for days. Gossip at Virion was subtle but sharp. In break rooms, people whispered, "Is she related to someone? Maybe she is a charity hire. Pretty, though, for someone who cleans microwaves." The worst came one Thursday afternoon. Naomi had just finished fixing a jammed printer when she passed 2 junior engineers in the hallway. If she knew tech, one said with a smirk, she would not be cleaning out the fridge. Naomi kept walking. She did not cry, not then. But that night, while brushing Leo's hair as he told her about a dream where computers had feelings, She looked at herself in the mirror and whispered, "You are not done yet." And she meant it. Because the world might see her as invisible, but she was not. And neither was Leo. The morning of the Virion client demo was tense, electric, and choreographed down to the minute. A $10 million software contract with a global logistics firm was on the line. Executives in tailored suits ran through slides, engineers checked diagnostics, and PR assistants polished signage one last time. Naomi was not supposed to be on this floor. She was there only because Leo's babysitter canceled again at the last minute. Rather than leave him home alone, she brought him along with a silent promise to keep him out of the way. She tucked him in a quiet corner of the break area near the conference floor with a puzzle book and a sandwich. Then she quietly began clearing leftover catering trays. She did not expect to witness the collapse of everything. At 8:58 in the morning, just 2 minutes before the clients were scheduled to walk through the door, the main server monitor glitched. It flickered once, then again. Then every connected system in the building, went dark. Alarms stayed silent, but the silence itself became an alarm. Heads snapped up, fingers jabbed at unresponsive touchscreens. The main control panel blinked red. Naomi looked up from behind the buffet table, her hands still holding a platter of untouched croissants. The lead engineer, Marcus, cursed under his breath. The system just dumped everything. The operations director, pale, said, "What do you mean, everything?" "I mean all active processes are dead. Local and cloud backups are unreachable. It is like someone sliced the entire brainstem." Elliot Stone strode in, reading the panic instantly. "Talk to me." Marcus shook his head, sweat rising on his brow. "We cannot isolate the failure. It is skipping every trace protocol, like a kernel redirect loop, but we are not sure how it started." Naomi's heart stopped. She turned to Leo, who had stood up and was watching the screen through the conference window. He tilted his head. "It is a bad kernel redirect loop," Leo said softly, his brow furrowed. "I saw this on your old laptop when it kept restarting that one time. Remember, Mom? You said it could kill the whole system if you did not patch it." Naomi froze. Every nerve in her body lit up. "How did you—" she began, then caught herself. She looked through the glass at the room full of panicking professionals. The woman who had laughed when she dropped her lunch. The man who once asked her if she was with catering. Then at Elliot Stone, who was clenching his jaw so tightly the muscles in his neck stood out. Her son had just diagnosed a critical system crash with a single glance. And no one would believe him. Naomi placed her hand gently on Leo's shoulder. "Stay right here." She walked toward the door. Each step felt like it echoed. She did not know what scared her more, being wrong or being right and ignored. But she kept walking. Naomi stood just outside the threshold of the conference room, heart pounding in her chest like a warning drum. Through the glass, a dozen high-ranking executives and engineers swarmed around dead monitors, shouting fragments of questions and orders into the void. Nothing was working. Nothing made sense. And yet she hesitated. Her palms were damp. Her throat felt tight. She had no authority, no official role, no clearance. She was the one who sorted printer paper. She was the woman people asked to refill creamer. If she stepped in now, she could be laughed out of the building, or worse, fired. But Leo's voice echoed in her mind. It is a bad kernel redirect loop. The same issue she once spent 4 nights troubleshooting on an old laptop she could barely afford. Leo had seen her fix it. He remembered. Up next in her list of reasons to fix. Still, her feet did not move. She saw Elliot Stone near the front of the room, stiff as marble, speaking low and fast to Marcus. His voice carried. "Get someone from network security on call, now." Naomi inhaled. She stepped into the room. "Excuse me," she said, her voice small at first. "I think I might know what is happening." No one turned. She tried again, louder. "The loop error. It might be a kernel redirect, the same kind I ran into once when—" Elliot turned toward her, his gaze cool and sharp. "You are not part of this meeting," he said. A few people turned. One engineer snorted. Naomi flushed. "I understand," she replied, her voice trembling. "But I think I can help. Just 5 minutes, that is all I am asking." Elliot raised an eyebrow. "And what, exactly, do you think you are going to accomplish?" Before Naomi could answer, a small hand reached out and tugged at her blouse. Leo. He had followed her in, wide-eyed, clutching his puzzle book like a shield. "You always told me," he said softly, "if I knew how to fix something, I should try, even if nobody asked me to." His voice was not loud, but it cut through the room like a bell. Naomi looked down at him, then back at Elliot. Her voice steadied. "I am not trying to impress anyone. I just know that if I do not say something now, and this fails, I will never forgive myself." Elliot stared at her. Silence fell over the room. The client's advance team was arriving in the lobby. The clock was ticking. Marcus opened his mouth to object, but Elliot held up a hand. He looked at Naomi for a long beat, then gave the smallest nod. 5 minutes, he said flatly. "Go." Naomi blinked, then moved. Naomi took the seat at the corner terminal, her hands hovering above the keyboard like she was remembering a language long forgotten. The room stood still, silent except for the faint hum of dead monitors and the ticking of the conference clock. Leo stood beside her, barely tall enough to see the screen, his small finger pointed. "Start with a hard mount bypass, just like on your old laptop." She hesitated for only a second. Then she typed. Her fingers moved fast, sharp, deliberate. Commands streamed across the screen as she bypassed the standard access protocol and tunneled straight into the core. The terminal's black window filled with lines of cascading data, error stacks folding in on themselves. "Permaloop is still active," she muttered, squinting. "I need a static patch offset." Leo tilted his head. "Try using the fallback directory path from the logs. That is what you told me when we fixed mine, remember?" She blinked. He was right. She input the path, overriding the ghost process's eating memory cycles. The system blinked, froze, then spat out a brief, root override authorized message. She felt the energy in the room shift. Still, no one moved. The lead engineer, Marcus, stared like he was watching a dream. "She is not gonna pull this off," someone whispered, "right?" Naomi dug deeper. One wrong line and the entire server bank could collapse. She shut off every unnecessary process, rerouted the core kernel thread, and forced a pre-compiled patch into the runtime. Her fingers never paused. Leo nudged her again. "Look at line 74. That one is weird." She scrolled. "A road loop." "Godai, baby," she whispered. She killed the process, ran the patch. The screen froze for a second, then came back to life. All systems green. Every monitor lit up. A collective gasp filled the room. The giant touchscreen at the center of the conference space flickered, then loaded the full, interactive demo interface seconds before the door opened and the client's team stepped inside. Gasps turned into stunned silence. The presentation software, perfectly aligned, the product dashboard glowing. Naomi leaned back in the chair, chest rising and falling. Marcus stammered, Who are you?" Her hand trembled slightly as she stood. She met his eyes and smiled. Not smug, not arrogant, just steady. Someone you never thought to ask. The room erupted. Engineers clapped. A few executives actually cheered. One woman near the back had tears in her eyes. Elliot Stone did not clap. He stood near the glass wall, arms folded, expression unreadable. But his eyes did not leave Naomi for a single second. And for the first time since she started working in the building, Naomi did not look away. She held her head high. Because her son had believed in her. Because she had believed in herself. And because finally, so did everyone else. The hours after the demo passed in a blur. The $10 million deal was signed. The clients had barely blinked before nodding, thoroughly impressed with the seamless recovery. What they did not know, what they could not stop talking about, was the woman at the terminal and the child who looked like he was defusing a bomb with crayons. By the next morning, a video snippet had leaked. Naomi bent over the keyboard, Leo beside her, the system lighting up behind them. The clip hit social media like lightning. Reporters called it the coffee clerk who saved Silicon Valley. Investors started asking, who is she? Where did she come from? Leo became an overnight darling. One reporter knelt beside him outside the Virion lobby and asked what it felt like to save the day. Leo blinked. I just pressed enter, really. That clip got 3 million views by lunch. Naomi tried to avoid the noise. She went home with Leo, made spaghetti, and tried to breathe like nothing had changed. But everything had. Especially when Elliot Stone showed up at her door the next day. He was not wearing a suit. He was holding a paper bag that smelled like roasted vegetables and garlic chicken. In his other hand was Leo's favorite comic book, one he must have noticed on her desk weeks ago. Naomi opened the door slowly. You tracked my address? I asked HR, he said simply. She arched an eyebrow. Slightly creepy. He nodded. Slightly desperate. She did not invite him in, yet. I wanted to offer you something, he said. Interim software lead. We need someone who thinks the way you do. She crossed her arms. You want a PR miracle. A redemption headline. The janitor turned genius. That is not what this is. Really, she asked? Because yesterday I was invisible. Today, you are offering me an office. He paused, then quietly, you were never invisible, I just did not look. She looked down at the comic book, at the effort, at the quiet man in front of her who, for once, looked unsure. I do not want to be your feel-good story, she said. I want to build things. I want people to listen even when I am not saving the day. Elliot nodded. Then let me listen. For a long beat, she said nothing. Then she opened the door. They sat on the floor of her small living room, plates on the coffee table, comic book pages flipping, and Leo's hands nearby. They talked about regrets, about dreams, about how lonely it was to be brilliant and overlooked, about the weight of responsibility and the fear of asking for more. No titles, no walls, just Naomi, just Elliot. Two people who, for the first time, did not need a system reboot to speak honestly. Just enough quiet to believe they still mattered. Together, Naomi took the job, but not the one offered. She wrote her own offer letter. 3 days after that conversation with Elliot, she sat across from the board with a calm, assertive tone and said, I will take the role on one condition. I work flexible hours. I lead my own team. I report to no one who talks to me like I am less. The room was silent. Then Elliot said, approved. From there, everything shifted. Naomi did not just fix code. She rewrote policies. She started a mentorship program for women returning to the tech field. Single mothers, former engineers, late bloomers. She gave them laptops, space, and a community. The program was called Reboot, and its motto was simple. Every line matters, so do you. She opened every session with the same sentence, not everyone starts from the same terminal, so let's build better ones together. Elliot changed too. He began attending team meetings not just to observe but to listen. He made time. He smiled more. He gave second chances. He learned to cook something besides frozen dumplings. His once robotic boardroom tone softened into one that asked questions instead of giving orders. One afternoon, Naomi walked into the cafeteria and found Elliot helping a junior engineer debug her first script, with Leo beside him, explaining in painstaking detail why indentation mattered. Elliot was laughing. Not politely, but freely. Naomi froze at the sight, then smiled, deeply. And always, Leo was there. In his oversized goggles and tiny lab coat, building bird feeders that emailed alerts when they needed refilling, or helping his mother reorganize system logic with frightening accuracy. 1 year later, at a company retreat in Northern California, the Virion team gathered under string lights in the courtyard of a lakeside lodge. There was a quiet joy in the air, like everyone had finally exhaled. Naomi stood near the coffee stand, laughing with a group of new hires. Her dress was a soft navy, elegant but playful, with a constellation pin on the collar that Leo had 3D printed himself. Elliot joined her, holding 2 mugs. He handed her one without a word. She smiled and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. Leo sat nearby, piloting a miniature drone he had built from scraps. The device buzzed low, dipped, then soared into the dusk like a firefly chasing stars. He looked at Elliot and asked, "So, are you my other dad now?" Naomi nearly dropped her coffee. Elliot did not flinch. He looked at Leo, then at Naomi. "Working on it," he said. There was something different in his voice now, something warm, certain, real. She looked at him, wide-eyed. He was nervous, just a little. So she kissed him. Right there, under the lights and the laughter, with Leo launching his drone again behind them like it was a firework made of gears and hope. And for the first time in a very long time, she let herself believe this was real. That after all the crashing systems, silent dismissals, and quiet heartbreaks, something better had booted up. Something worth trusting. Something worth building. Voiceover, soft and full of meaning. Sometimes the biggest systems crash, so the right reboot can happen. Then laughter. Then light. Then everything new. Sometimes it is not about how much power or prestige you hold. It is about how deeply you believe in yourself and how bravely you choose to reboot when the world crashes down. Naomi was never just a facilities worker. She was a mother, a mentor, a brilliant woman who only needed one moment and one tiny voice saying, "Mom, can I fix it?" to change her life forever. And Elliot? He was the man who finally learned that true leadership is not built on control, but connection. Together, they found not just a future, but family. We would love to hear from you. Where are you watching this story from? What moment touched your heart the most? Drop a comment below. We read every one, and they mean the world to us. If you love stories like this, about love, second chances, and brilliant children who see the world differently, please hit that subscribe button. Turn on notifications so you never miss our next story. Because sometimes the biggest systems crash, just so the right ones can be rewritten together.